Hey everybody, and welcome back. Sunhaven is a farming sim meets RPG with so many characters, choices, and especially skill trees that it'll make your head spin. I've heard people call it the D&D of farming simulators, and that really speaks to me at a primal level. The game just hit full release a few weeks back, and it's been blowing up my timeline since. Today, I'm going to knock out a whole month and get a vibe for the game. And if you have a good time here today, make sure to drop a comment and let me know that I should continue into summer. It seems like the important choices start before we even reach the town. I selected human for my race because, first of all, contrary to popular belief, I am a human. But second, the fact that I can get a crafting speed reduction here means that crafting takes time, and that makes me nervous. I designed my 100% accurate, true-to-life little guy and scrolled through the professions. There were 3 that gave permanent bonuses to either speed, magic, or attack and health. I picked speed because I'm not sure what kind of fighting style, if any, I'll hone in on. After that, it was a little bit of exposition about Lynn, one of the romance candidates who's moving to Sunhaven at the same time as me. She asked about my charm on my belt or whatever, and I told her it would grant me riches, which apparently that matters because I got a keepsake for it. Then something very spooky happened to the lights, and we arrived in a shroud of dark fog. I met the town's ruler, leader, mayor, Lucia, and the lawful stupid paladin of a town guard, Nathaniel. Lucia showed me to my farmland where I plopped a whole house down and met another romance option, the merchant Anne. I am noticing a theme with the art here. I bought some tools and seeds from Anne and started the farm. As I leveled up in exploration from a short quest, I realized there are like a lot of choices in this game. I don't think it's worth talking about every selection, but I picked air skip here for more speed. I bought some wheat from Emmett, who apparently works at every store in town, then picked up a couple quests from the bulletin board outside. To the east, I found a cranky blacksmith named Solon, who is apparently Lynn's mentor, and I had to clean up after a dragon. Solon told me to go tell Lucia about the dragon, so after meeting Catherine, another romanceable character with the coolest hat ever, I tried. But apparently you have to tell Lucia in the town hall. On my way there, I dropped off a quest for Topi, met Warnhart and June, 2 more marriage candidates, and finally got to the town hall to tell Lucia the news that I couldn't possibly give her at the park bench. Another romance candidate, Kitty, who is actually a cat person and says "nya" and makes paw puns, told us that we should catch a fish for the dragon, so I was off to a fisherman next. I just had to add "nya" to my Microsoft dictionary because of this video. Oh god. On my way to the docks, I met Liam, a shy little guy with flour on his apron, maybe, and chatted with Nathaniel for a moment about how strong and brave his guards are. Peter the fisherman hooked a squid thing that gave me a fishing rod. And it was at this point that I decided I needed to, chill. I was 33 minutes into the game and on part 5 of some random fetch quest. I tried to go home across the beach, but there were enemies there and my scythe couldn't do any damage at all, so I ran away. I found some treasure on the next map over though, which is apparently also my farm, so finders keepers. I also met a snackoon. It seems like he's a roadblock type thingy. He wants apples and wheat, which I'm hoping shouldn't be too hard. Then I went to hand in a quest for apples and got a sword from Rosa, Nathaniel's second in command. I was probably supposed to get this before fighting. Oops. After that, I headed home and just worked on stuff around the farm. I planted a bunch more wheat, moved my little crafting table, and built a chest. I sold some stuff I had gathered around town, then cleaned up the farm until 11:40, since apparently you pass out at midnight. Inside, I found a chest, like the one I had just made. Shucks. And that was how my first day ended. Holy, that was a long first day, almost an entire hour of gameplay, and I'm only playing on 30-minute days. Day 2 was less of a story dump, so I had more time to just wander around enjoying the art style today. I started by watering my crops in the morning and checking my mail for some gifts. Bernard gave me fence posts and torches, and Lucia gave me some berries. Neat. I put up my fence posts around my little growing area and slapped down those torches right away too. Snazzy. While wandering around through the town, I found a chest with a farmer's ring in it. This will give me an extra 5% farming experience, which should add up pretty quickly. After that, I checked the quest board, but I didn't feel confident that I could finish these, so I didn't take anything today. I gave apples and oranges to all the marriage candidates I saw and collected a bunch of copper in the mines. I met a vendor named Blossom, who can apparently sell some pretty unique stuff based on the seasonal tokens I get all the time from digging up the dirt and whatever. It looks like she sells a whistle that gives me a mount, so I think I'll save up for those if I can. I also dropped off that grouper with Kitty today, and she told me to talk to her tomorrow. Should have just done that last step yesterday, I guess. I spent 500 gold buying flour for a kindergartner today, and I got a bunch of combat experience, which I used to go bully the crabs that stole my lunch money yesterday. Warrenhart asked me to check on a medicine order for him at Catherine's shop, which I assumed was like inside her house, but she won't let me in because we're not friends, so I went home. Then I spent my night collecting wood and crafting. I built a furnace and made enough bars with it to craft an anvil. Looks like I can make my own tools with that, which should be really handy. On day 3, Anne came to the farm and gave me a furniture table for crafting. I'll definitely use that. Definitely. She also apologized for coming on a little strong and told me she hopes we can have a mutually beneficial relationship. I think I'm realizing this game is kind of like an MMO in some ways. There are just so many quests available. I honestly don't know if I can complete them all, and it seems like trying to overextend yourself might be worse than just realizing when you can't do something. I did get clams for Pod, though, because why not? I went to talk to Catherine again because I wanted to get that medicine for Warrenhart, and I learned that her magic is somehow different from Lucia's. She didn't have the medicine for me, though. She also called Lynn boring, which, fair, I guess. I realized while checking my quest log that the farming shop next to the general store is probably where I'm supposed to go. I checked their inventory but didn't see the medicine. I wouldn't realize I skipped it for a couple days. Whoops. I talked to Lucia about her magic as well and learned that, surprise, she's a fire mage. Never would have guessed. After a trip to the mines, I dropped off some coal with Nathaniel and used the experience to learn a very underwhelming fireball spell. I planted a bunch more crops and learned that Claude is some kind of nepo baby jerk with an enormous house and an ego about the same size. I got the dragon bait from Kitty and watered some of her flowers for her. I also practiced some fishing today and caught a couple perfect goldfish. No big deal. Then I just cleaned up and got ready for another day in Sunhaven. Day 4 started off with some monsters eating my crops. Very sad. No crows in this game, just little lizards who gobble up your wheat. I tried to kill them to take revenge, but apparently they're just ethereal, wiggly little dudes who can't be cut by simple blades. I had a letter from Solon that morning with some copper, which means I should have enough bars to make a new tool soon. After getting those started, I headed down through the beach area to collect shells, found a lure that Peter somehow lost even though it was 4 feet away from him, then headed to the mines to tell Solon I had the dragon bait. He instantly ordered me to go back to town and get a trap. Lots of fetch quests in this game. I did though, and then we had a nice little how to train your dragon moment, so apparently he's a dad now. Both Anne and Kitty wanted sapphires today, and I had a couple, so I turned in those quests for a bunch more experience and some cash. I planted some lettuce seeds that I had bought during my day, then I headed west of my farm for the first time and found a bunch of enemies, as well as a ton of trees to cut down. Most importantly though, I discovered animation canceling. I scrolled up on my mouse wheel while cutting a tree down and moved back to find that it went very fast. Then I tried alternating, pressing 2 and 3 on my keyboard instead of scrolling, and it was faster. Amazing. I'll have to try that in the mines tomorrow. Before I went to bed, I crafted a copper pickaxe and made a compost bin to get some fertilizer started. On day 5, there was a giant weed monster waiting to ruin my fields in the morning. I went to talk to him, and he said he'll only leave if I beat him in a game of jump rope. Okay. I didn't do very well. I'll come back to it. I was also told by Lucia that I need to meet the dragon that protects the town as a rite of passage or something. We'll be doing that tomorrow, I guess. After that, I harvested a whole bunch of wheat and replanted with whatever random crops I had in my storage. Despite just talking about not overloading myself with quests, I took one to gather apples, another to deliver stone, and a third to find a notebook. I also bought the medicine for Warrenhart that I'd missed like twice already. I chatted with Catherine, who says she's looking for a cute partner. And Lucia, who is tired of being asked about her red hair. Whoops. I went mining, of course, and got some copper and made it to an area with enemies in the mine, but then I headed back to my farm and planted so many seeds that I had to expand my little field. I also got a copper watering can started, which I'm hoping will work like the ones in Harvest Moon or Stardew Valley. Before running for bed, I started some fertilizer crafting and got a cooking pot queued up. Neat. Day 6 was a rainy day, so I didn't get to test that watering can theory. I also had a ton of mail this morning. Everyone was saying how proud of me they were and giving me gifts. If I had this much support growing up, there is no way I'd be on YouTube right now. The stupid weed monster was still here, and I asked if I could get help from the villagers. He mocked me, but confirmed that I could ask around. I snagged a quest from June to plant some flowers around the town to brighten people's spirits. Then Lucia told me that 2 little girls who like to jump rope might be able to save me from the weed monster. More importantly though, when I got outside, she took me to visit Ilios, the dragon who protects Sunhaven. He asked me some questions that I accidentally clicked through, the first one too fast, and told him that I live for my friends, which is not true in this game. Then I told him I like fire and living in the moment, and he told me I have the familiar energy of a dragon. He gave me a mana bonus and told me he'll have more info later. After that, I gathered up 2 children and took them to go challenge Weedle at jump rope again. We succeeded this time with the power of child labor, so Weedle left my farm for now and gave me some fertilizer, seeds, and a little pet. Cute. I visited the museum for the first time today and dropped off some of the stuff I had on hand. The curator is more Nigel Thornberry than Blathers, which I am 100% down for. Not gonna lie though, I literally never gave the museum a second thought after today. I finished June's quest, then collected copper in the mines until Elios told me to visit after I leveled up once in mining, somehow. When I got there, he told me there was a great evil falling on the land or something, and that I had to get a crystal to make some kind of barrier to protect Sunhaven while he travels to ask other dragons about what's going on. Wow. He also gave me an iron axe, which is very cool. I spent the rest of the day exploring and fed the Snackoon some apples and wheat so I could use that northern path. I also got a little plushie from him when he left, and it is oh so adorable. On day 7, I was disappointed to find that my watering can does not in fact water more spaces. It just holds more water and works more quickly. Bummer. Probably still worth it though. Since I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my copper, I decided to just turn it into keys. I can probably get more ore the deeper I go, so this seemed like a decent idea. Then I watered all my crops, the old-fashioned way, and headed to the mines when my keys were done. I collected a bunch of copper, then headed back into town. I feel like I always catch Lucia and Catherine here, and today was no different. Those ears on Catherine's hat, by the way, not part of the hat. Interesting. I saw in the farming skill tree that there's a spell that waters a large area, so even though I'd have to water everything by hand, I spent all my money on crops today to continue pushing my farming experience. I tried to focus on things that could only be grown in spring, like peas, kiwi, kale, and lettuce. I also ran into a quest from June for the exact number of cookies I had in my pocket. Nice. Back home, I spent most of the day preparing another field. I think I saw scarecrows cover 5 tiles in any direction, so I made a little square. We'll see, I guess. Oh, and I randomly threw fertilizer on like everything. I tried to use the fire fertilizer on the longer growing crops, but I don't know all of the sprites that well yet. I woke up on day 8 to more annoying baby dragons eating my crops. But since I had a bunch of seeds in the mail, I just replaced them and went on with my day. I can make a scarecrow when this next batch of wheat comes in. Then I went to the mines, as usual. I got a whole bunch of copper and made it to floor 9 where I found iron, which means I probably shouldn't waste time making more copper gear. Back in town, I checked on the price of a barn, but it's like 5,000 gold and I have 978 even after turning in a couple quests a day, so that's not happening. Instead, I went home and got a construction table started while I cleared out more trees and weeds for experience. When my table was done, I went to look and see if I could build a coop or anything, but no, I can't. Shucks. I really do have to buy that barn. I started heading east and encountered another Snackoon, but then I thought maybe it was getting a little too late, so I turned around and just worked on the farm more. It was honestly a pretty slow day. On day 9, I had a stupid little chomper outside my door just before I was able to make scarecrows. Dang. Well, after my harvest, I got 2 scarecrows started, so hopefully this won't happen again. Since I had harvested 40 wheat, I talked to Anne, who gave me a ton of farming experience and a book to get a free farming skill. Holy, that is awesome. Inching ever closer to the spell for watering. I progressed in the mines today, unlocking more doors and picking up a whole bunch of iron along the way. When I was done, I bought even more seeds. My poor dreams of a barn are so far away, but I do want to keep planting stuff for experience. After refilling the fields, I headed east of town to figure out the quest for Elios. I found a group of miners, or more like crystal poachers maybe. I convinced Steven to leave, but the other 2 wanted to fight. I haven't been leveling combat, like at all, but it was still pretty easy with kiting. Then I headed back to town, convinced Nathaniel that we should give Steven a second chance, and took the crystal to Elios. He's going to leave for a couple days, so I'll just have to sit on my hands until then. I crafted myself an iron sword since I was feeling a little underpowered, but it turns out I'm not even at a high enough combat level to use it. So I fought some crabs until I hit level 9 combat, but it got too close to bedtime, so I couldn't quite make it to 10 to use my new sword. On day 10, a few more crops were done, so after harvesting, I started making a creamy beef stew. I didn't have any beef or cream, but that's okay. I got a very concerning letter about a dark ritual happening tonight, but apparently my character just thought maybe we'll bring it back to the mail carrier instead of acting on it. And who am I to argue? I dropped off the letter at Town Hall, then headed into the mines where I unlocked my first treasure floor. Very fun. I also crawled back through 10 and 11 to get more iron and copper before heading to the east of town to look for a sword that an old man dropped. I found out that some monsters out here drop green pepper flakes, which I think I need for cooking, and some monsters out here are horrific abominations unleashed upon the unexpected. After fleeing from the scorpion, I bought more amaranth seeds and planted those in my original field. I headed to the west instead this time and leveled up to 10 in combat. Now I can use my iron sword. Yay! I also got started on an iron pick before sneaking into bed right before midnight. Day 11 was another rainy day, but there was a stupid crocodino whatever thing eating my crops. I figured it out nearly instantly though. The scarecrows that say summer, spring, fall, yeah, that's the season they're good for. If you read the text, it definitely tells you that. Ouch. Well, whatever. I made a seed machine and didn't use it, but did cook some new fruit dishes today. Yay! As I was leaving the farm, though, I checked my mail. Nathaniel, in his infinite wisdom, had sent me an iron sword. Bruh. Seriously. This was not my morning. After that, I took a quest from both Kitty and Lynn and found out that yesterday was Lynn's birthday, and I think I walked right past her without saying anything. When I dropped off the quest item for Kitty, I went inside to go shopping and bought a chicken. Turns out you can just buy a chicken. You don't need a coop or a barn. Oh my god, what a day. Well, I took it home and pet it and got some eggs. Very cool. Then I visited Elios, who was back from vacation. He told me to go to Nelvari and talk to some elves because over in Withergate, the monsters had a dark, shadowy, evil cloud cast over them. And it was all the fault of some moon dragon. Alrighty then, Elios. I tried to move forward with this quest, but I need some silk gloves to read a very old and delicate book, and I don't have a loom, so I'll have to wait. Before bed, I planted more crops and started making some brick floor tiles. I need to clean this place up. It's starting to make me nervous to walk outside into this disaster. On day 12, I had a bunch more crops ready to harvest, which was super exciting. I started some new recipes and figured out how to feed my chicken, which is probably somewhat important. I bought more wheat from the general store because I know I want to build more scarecrows, then I dropped off some coal with Solon. After that, I dove into the mines and gathered a ton of iron ore. I grabbed the Vacuumulus spell, which is really nice for collecting a lot of stone at the same time. I'll want that for the brick flooring and stuff I want to make later. Plus, if I upgrade it, I'll be able to knock out ore deposits in one hit. It's a huge mana drain though, so I can't just spam it. Back home, I started making as many bars as I could to eventually turn into keys. I'm not going to mess around with making armor this time around, I just want to keep progressing through the mines instead. Before bed, I went on a short monster slaying spree and got some hot sauce from a not gargantuan scorpion thingy. Day 13 was another small harvest day, which is very exciting. I started making some iron keys to get further into the mines and turned my wheat back into seeds. Then it was off to the mines with those iron keys. I really am enjoying that Vacuumulus spell. It's so handy that I just went and maxed it out as quickly as possible to decrease the mana cost. The most important thing I wanted from this section was adamant ore. I'm hoping that I'll be able to cut down the hardwood and break the big stones on my farm with this level of tools. By finding a couple rusty keys, I was able to get to the treasure floor where I found an ore muncher, kind of like a mines snackoon. I had a lot of what he wanted, but I need to find him more copper and stone to get past. When I got out of the mine, I found Lynn waiting outside. She told me she was pretty stressed, so we're gonna have a little date on the beach tomorrow. Cute. I spent the rest of my day smelting bars and just kind of cleaning up my farm. I want to move all the little machines up to this top level to kind of clean things up. I did make a jewelry machine thinking maybe I could process my sapphires and stuff, but it seems like that might be more resource intensive than I thought. Oh well. On day 14, I had a big amaranth harvest, which is cool for experience. I watered everything around the farm that was left and started crafting an adamant axe. Really excited for that. I also placed down some of the brick pathing that had finished up, and man, I did not have very much of it. I'm gonna need a lot more stone. After that, it was off to my date with Lynn. We went to the South Docks and chatted for a bit about how she basically has no self-esteem and isn't sure that she should even be here. I am, of course, incredibly kind, so of course I told her that she deserved all the good things that were happening. It wasn't an incredibly deep date, but it was nice. Immediately after my date, Catherine gave me a charm that was the most powerful one she's ever made. The description says she wants it to protect someone special to her. Gosh, I am just so popular. I equipped the charm and headed to the mines, where I dug up more adamant and also finished feeding the ore muncher. He didn't give me anything, but he did get out of the way, so that's pretty cool, I guess. The next little section of the mines had even more adamant, which I dug up before heading into town to bankrupt myself buying more seeds. I also found out that I can buy elixirs from the town hall that will just straight up give me a skill point. So I got 3 farming ones with all my tokens. Then I moved things around on my farm. Definitely need more tiles and the next pickaxe, but at least most things aren't all spread out now. On day 15, a new giant monster decided to inhabit my farm. Krusty shot rocks and ore all over my map, which is honestly kind of okay with me. But I did a fetch quest for Lynn, which was literally just walking 10 feet away, and she said she'd help me come take care of it. Then I headed into the mines for the usual, gathering adamant to upgrade to a new pickaxe. When I left, I hunted down Nathaniel, who also agreed to join after a quick trip to warn Rosa that he'd be busy for a while. I started attacking the thing with them, but it looks like it's gonna take a while. I'll just let those two handle things for now. I built a loom today, finally, so I could make those gloves I needed for the Nelvari quest. When I went to read the book, it was in another language, which makes sense. The librarian told me to check with an elf in the tavern, but he basically called me out for assuming all elves can speak this specific branch of Elvish. I also missed closing time at the library, so I couldn't even continue on the quest. Instead, I just went home to clean up the farm and start some crafting. The 16th started with Krusty dropping a bunch more rocks on my farm as Lynn and Nathaniel continued to chip away at him. After that, I had a big harvest and another farming level. I gathered all the stuff I'd been crafting the night before and got started on an adamant watering can. Lynn apparently took a few minutes away from Krusty to send me a letter with sunite ore, which seems pretty rare. When I stopped in town, I saw Catherine had a quest for me, but apparently it's a date opportunity. I'll meet her outside her house tomorrow at 5 p.m. Neat. I ran into Lucia like 2 minutes later and set up another date for 5 p.m. tomorrow. Uh-oh. I'm sure it'll be fine. After that, I worked on the Nelvari quest again. I met up with the librarian, who wasn't surprised and told me to find essentially the Rosetta Stone. And wouldn't you know it, Anne has it. But she needs me to go collect a bunch of her stashed goodies in the forest before I can borrow it. What a weird concept. I did that, running through the forest, digging up little spots, then came back to town where I decided to buy a cow. It just seems right. When I got the stone and read the book, it was apparently a poem or something. I went back to the elf guy again, and he said he'd explain it to me, but I had to pay his tab first. And by pay his tab, he actually meant grow 40 elvish grapes. Okay, fine. So I planted some grapes, along with a bunch of other crops that I bought earlier, and continued gathering resources before bedtime. On day 17, Krusty once again deposited rocks and ore on my farm. Why am I trying to get rid of this guy again? All the grapes, including some that I bought with my own money, were dead, which sucks. Even worse, Edwin sent me a letter in the mail saying how we were drinking buddies. What a jerk. I talked to him at the tavern and learned that I need to infuse the grapes with mana, so I went to visit the resident sorcerer, Lucia, and she taught me how to do just that. Then it was back to Edwin to get another batch of seeds, which I planted and infused with mana back home. While I was finishing up, Nathaniel and Lynn took care of Krusty, and I got another little pet from him. Cute. I started laying out some pathing around the entrance to my farm, where I planned to move one of my fields, then headed off on my dates. 2 of them. First up was Catherine. We enjoyed the calm breeze and beautiful flowers outside her home and had a short conversation about magic. Then I went and talked to Lucia, who told me about how she wishes she could go back to the time when she became the town's leader, but bring along her current knowledge. I get that. She appreciated having some time away from the responsibility, and I appreciated the cute little break in action. The rest of my day was just resource gathering as I continue to work on the Nelvari quest. On day 18, the grapes were ready, for real this time. They're worth a decent chunk of change, too. Between getting the EXP overnight and getting the money back right away, I really like these. They are a huge mana dump, though. I also built a large fishing net today, as I've really been ignoring pretty much everything to do with fishing. I turned in the grapes, and Edwin, the jerk, told me that my ability to grow them is probably good enough to get me into Nelvari. Great. Well, I told Lucia about my progress, and she said that I should meet her and Nathaniel at the barracks before I left. She also asked me if I wanted to go on another date tomorrow. Sure. At the barracks, they gave me a medallion that permanently increases my mana and a pair of boots. Thanks, Nathaniel. I can officially make the trek west to Nelvari now, but instead I just replanted my fields full of crops and headed east instead. I've had these 2 quests on my board for a long time, so I wanted to find Albert's sword and kill some monkeys. I also need more wood. I managed to find the sword, and I also met a guy named Clive, who I really vibe with. He's the taxi guy, apparently, but his wheel is gone. As I wrapped up my monkey slaughter, I found the wheel and brought it back. He still needs an iron bar to get it back up and running, but I didn't have time to bring him one that night. I finally got within 1 level of the Rain Cloud spell on day 19, which meant that after I harvested all my crops, I ran straight to the town hall to buy a farming skill potion. but they weren't open yet. So I ran around picking up and finishing quests first. The most important was that I helped Clive get his taxi fixed up, but apparently it only goes between the grove he was in and the town. I'm guessing that this will expand as I go to new areas. When I made a quick stop on my farm, Peter, the fisherman, also gave me a small net and told me that I can only use a limited number of them. Whatever, Peter. Then I got that potion, and it was glorious. That's a potential like 50 tiles of watering. Goodness. Later on, I stopped by Lucia's house for a date, and she told me about how she feels so completely relaxed and happy with me. Also, there is literal lava in her house. You're going a little hard on the fire mage thing here, girl. That was about it for my day, though, other than a quick trip to the mines to gather more adamant and level up in combat. On day 20, I spent all morning running back and forth. I crafted some stuff, watered my plants with my amazing, so wonderful, life-changingly awesome rain cloud spell, prepared a little space for a bee box, and got a whole bunch of planks started. Then I went into town to hand out gifts and do some quests. I asked Catherine to go on another date tomorrow and also hit 10 hearts with Lucia. Teehee. I ended up heading west toward Nelvari for the first time today. I crossed a little bridge where the color palette changed and started getting some very interesting new resources. Unfortunately, I haven't really been leveling my combat stats, so when I ran into level 20 plus monsters, I didn't fare very well. I decided to go level up in the Eastwoods for now so I could hit level 20 and start using adamant armor and weapons. When it started getting late, I headed to the mines to get some more adamant, and I did in fact hit level 20 combat. So I started a new sword before going to bed. Day 21 was another beautiful day. I had a few things to harvest today and decided to go through and make more recipes. Eating food in this game is so cool. You get your recovery of health and mana, but most food has those permanent effects too. It's a cool way to encourage eating lots of stuff instead of just finding the most efficient food cost-wise. I handed in some rewards today and met up with Anne, who gave me a pearl earring. It gives me more money every day than the charm I have from the start of the game, and also gives me 8 gold every time I craft something. That adds up quick. I've already been switching between Catherine's charm and the one I picked up in the intro, so I'll just swap to this. I also asked her on a date, so I have to meet her tomorrow at 4. Speaking of dates, I had one with Catherine that night where we reminisced about the past. It's not that you want to go back to those times, it's that you want the feeling of those times. I definitely get that. After our date, I headed back to the farm to plant a bunch of grapes and collect more resources. Crafting with Anne's earring is awesome. I have a skill that gives me 8 gold, plus I get 8 from the earring, so I get 16 gold for every plank or bar or anything. On day 22, all those grapes were done, so I harvested them and tilled out the land for more crops. Then I bought a whole bunch of random seeds to fill the spots. I don't think I'm really lacking any spring crops, so I just got stuff on sale and some year-round crops that I didn't have a lot of. After planting everything, I went around fulfilling quests and giving gifts to the marriage candidates before having a date with Anne at the tavern. I don't really care at all about her, but I'll raise hearts with everyone anyway. I woke up a snackoon that led me to an orchard where I pilfered some honey and jam, then asked Catherine to be my girlfriend. Then I ran into Lynn and asked her to be my girlfriend. Then I went to the town hall and asked Lucia to be my girlfriend. Now I have 3 girlfriends. After that, I finally found the meat for sale at the general store and gave it to Solon after weeks of carrying a quest around. I went diving for more adamant ore and started smelting them into bars. I did have enough for new gloves though, so those will be done tomorrow. On day 23, I decided it was time to check out Nelvari. After my chores, I geared up in full adamant armor, minus the boots, since Nathaniel's boots were actually pretty decent, and I headed west. Having the adamant gear made all the difference in the world, and I quickly moved through the first area, bouncing on mushrooms and collecting all kinds of goodies. An enormous, elite horn snake scared the crap out of me, but he was gone when I reset the map. So I continued on to meet Salix, a guardian of Nelvari. I convinced him that I was a friend of Nelvari by infusing his friend with mana, bringing him out of a deep slumber. And that was it. I was in Nelvari. Inside the town, I met Vaughn, another marriage candidate, and gave him a gift before checking out the shops. I can't afford much right now though, because they use mana orbs as currency here. I progressed further, meeting the elder of the community, Gorwin. He explained that he knew I was on the way and told me that he had prepared something for my arrival. We headed west to a new farm that I would now maintain. That's gonna be hard. Wesley, Gorwin's very annoying assistant, basically took every opportunity to call me a trash outsider. So I planted some acorns to prove I could farm. I was told that Lily, this bug thing, would advise me on the farm. She told me that crops from Sunhaven won't grow here because the mana in the soil is too strong. Instead, I can plant specific Nelvari crops here, and planting the right things will summon animals to the farm. I asked about the griffin at the entrance, and she said they're very proud, but I could try to talk to it. So I did. I fed it a berry, and now we're friends. Looks like he's a fast travel option for me to get home. I kinda thought the taxi would do that, but whatever. After that, I looked around the town a bit. I found another griffin at the top of a tree that has Nelvari's mines, but I wasn't allowed to enter without a key, so that's a bummer. I also met Iris, another marriage candidate from Nelvari, and gave her a berry too. When I was done looking around, I tried to fly home, but apparently the griffin was sleeping, so I stayed on the farm. I cleaned up elven trees, rocks, and weeds, but based on how little my tools are doing to the rocks and trees here, I think I might have showed up slightly too early. I might need to gear up before I really tackle another farm, but we'll see. On day 24, I awoke in my Nelvari farmhouse. I discovered that even this elven paradise is not safe from crocodilian terrors, and then I tried to go visit the dragon. Apparently, it was not ready though, which I could have seen if I looked at my quest log. Instead, I gave gifts to Iris and Vaughn and headed back to Sunhaven. I took care of my crops at home. I'm done planting until summer, by the way, and then headed into town to check some quests. I dropped off one each with Lucia and Catherine and asked Lynn on a second date. Then I went hunting for adamant, hoping to find enough to make all the keys I'll need to get to the next section of the mines. I got a lot, but not all of what I needed, but decided to head home a little early to get some items processed. I gave Warrenhart an apple on my way home, which he hated. Apple a day, huh? And then I sold a whole bunch of gems and started making adamant bars for those keys. I also built another chest for my fish, as they were starting to overflow. On day 25, there was someone called Scuzzy Bear on my farm, and he was selling basically nothing useful to me. I had a whole bunch of fish in my nets, and I harvested a bunch of crops as well. Then I stopped into town where I got a quest from Catherine to provide 25 carrots. I didn't plan on planting anything else until summer, but here we are. I bought a bunch of seeds and planted them with some advanced fire fertilizer to cut the times in half before heading to Nelvari to take care of my other farm. Over in the elf part of the world, I handed out gifts to Vaughn first and then to Iris before trying to meet the dragon for real this time. I had to climb the great tree, which was easy since I had already done this before, but man, Wesley is a little butthole. And when I did finally try to meet the dragon after getting the Elder's blessing, the Guardian was on the fritz. Iris gave me a quest to get soul sap from the trees outside of town, but I have a date today. Come on, guys. So I went home. I spent more time in the mines getting adamant for keys before meeting Lynn for a date at her house. She told me about how she came to be Solon's apprentice after a smithing competition, but then it was back into the mines for me. I started a whole bunch of bars that night, then headed back to Nelvari, collecting the soul sap along the way. This is such a hike to be making all the time. Day 26 saw me waking up on the Nelvari farm where I watered my acorns and headed to meet Iris with the sap. She told me to rub it gently all over Wilt's gnarly tree body, and oh did I rub him down. Then I met Nivara, the world dragon, who asked me some questions and then told me I had to start taking lessons. The first was easy. I met with Vaughn and Iris and learned their perspectives. Iris thinks Nelvari should remain closed to outsiders as they're only safe when they're hidden. She tasked me with infusing mana into the barrier that keeps Nelvari safe. Then I met Vaughn, who wants to intertwine with outsiders. He told me to go find a hidden item just outside of town. It was a poster of the great city. Okay. Then I went and talked to the Elder, who I actually didn't need to talk to. But that was one lesson down. Next, I had to learn more about Wesley. The Elder told me he was a very diligent person, despite his frosty exterior. If I could donate to the town to prove that I'm trying to improve Nelvari, perhaps he would accept me. Well, I need to donate 1,000 mana orbs, and I don't even have 500, so that might be tough. When I realized I probably wouldn't be able to get that knocked out right away, I headed home to take care of my crops on the Sunhaven farm. I bought and planted more carrots too because I saw that Catherine wanted me to harvest 25 carrots, not just obtain them. Then I just handed out gifts and collected resources for the rest of the day. Mithril in the mines, and wood, hardwood, and more mana orbs at home and in the West Forest. 1,000 orbs is going to be tough unless I start spending more time on my Nelvari farm. I wasn't really sure what to do on the 27th. I checked my mail after harvesting crops and had a ton of letters from all kinds of people. I decided to set up another little area for a bee box with the flowers I got, then grab some keys and hit the mines. I got into the next area down there, ice now instead of fire. I got a fair bit of mithril before heading over to my Nelvari farm. My acorns were ready, and they were worth 133 orbs. So actually, it might not take me too long to hit 1,000 after all. I sold them off and snagged a quest to give Iris some crystals, 3 each of earth and water. I don't have them on me, but that'll be easy. Vaughn told me he liked the way my farm looked before I moved in. Apparently he flies over Sunhaven frequently. Thanks, Vaughn. Here's an apple. Then I snuck into Iris's house looking for her. I learned that she loves gemstones and rubies. Same. I found her at the bar and gave her a gift as well, before heading to the general store to buy some discount acorns and a ton of wok choy seeds. They grow in any season, so I can safely plant them now. I am going to need scarecrows though. The griffin was sleeping by the time I was done, so I hoofed it all the way back to Sunhaven because there's a festival tomorrow. Day 28, the final day of spring. I've been having so much fun with this game that I don't want to stop, but if I don't limit myself somehow, I'll never get a video out. Today was the first festival of the game, but that apparently starts in the evening. So I had plenty of time to harvest and plant more crops and create even more bars. I completed more local quests, including one for Lynn, and headed to Nelvari, where I handed off some crystals to Iris, and bought and planted even more local crops. I won't be able to finish this chain of quests in spring, but that's okay. I came back to the town to hunt for more mithril in the mines before heading to the festival. It looks like it's a lantern releasing festival, and I found it funny that some of the Withergate NPCs, who I've never met before, were here to watch us send our wishes to the sky. I went around talking to everyone, including those NPCs I've never even met in the game, and bought a lantern spirit and a bunch of festival food for the powerful buffs. Then, we released our lanterns into the sky and wished for a prosperous summer. And that was it. My first month of Sunhaven was over, just like that. If you had fun, remember to like the video and leave me a comment. That way, I'll know I should keep this game going. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.